wanted to I wanted to talk about some of the comments I got on my last post.
Oh
And
yes,
that
we
is
love
in
the viewer comments, so keep them
yeah.
coming.
So my last post, I asked people, do you think being called a fortune teller is taboo? Is it something that you call yourself, or is it something that you don't like to call yourself? And these are the comments, so maybe we can work on some of those.
What are we calling it? The fortune teller.
The fortune teller show,
The fortune teller show. Okay.
just like the Tonight Show,
Yeah.
but we're the fortune teller show. We're way more interesting. It's funny because when I originally wanted to call my shop the fortune teller, my teacher, one of my teachers, totally was against it.
Oh, why
She
is
said,
that?
"Don't call your shop the fortune teller because people will think you're some sort of like con man."
Yes, yes.
And I said, "Well, what would I call it? The angel fairy room, the purple
Crystal
velvet
healing
room,
room,
the
yeah.
crystal healing room." I said, "I don't do any of those
Yes,
things."
yes, yes,
I
yes.
said, I'm a fortune teller. I tell fortunes, and I read all the divination stuff. And she was
Yeah.
like, "Don't do it. Don't call it the fortune teller."
But it's a great name. It says exactly what you do.
Exactly. But she said that she didn't call herself a fortune teller, even though she was a tarot reader,
Okay.
because she thought that was a condescending name.
Why?
She's an older generation, so probably in her generation, being called a fortune teller was kind of like being called like you're some sort of, like con man or con woman.
Yes, yes. Fortuna Patsy Diviner. We are now Facebook friends as well, Fortuna. So thank you for friending me on Facebook.
There you are, fortune, good fortune. There's
Yep,
a sign
Fortuna.
there. There's a sign right there. Good fortune
That's
is on the way.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to that. What should I do? Leave some coins under the pillow for the tooth fairy to come tonight or something? So the question was: Is the fortune teller? Is it a taboo?
To call yourself a
Yeah.
fortune teller.
So
Yeah.
so Fortuna is saying exactly because that's what you do. Personally, I don't call myself anything, just a diviner. Having thought about it, people can call me whatever they wish. I don't think fortune teller is bad at all. Actually, I like it.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's in the yes.
She's in the positive.
Yes.
Positive.
Yeah, and then we've got Alona SF. Yes, because I'm a predictive reader. What's a predictive reader? What does that mean?
Well, I've learned by being on Facebook that there's non-predictive and predictive. See, I didn't know this in my years of wisdom doing this job. I never knew there was a such thing as a non-predictive reader.
Okay.
So what a non-predictive reader apparently is someone who does tarot cards but does not predict the future.
Oh, right.
So my next question is, well, what do they do?
Yeah. Well, for me, tarot often just giving me a summary.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what's going on. And then I'm always like, yeah, but
Next.
how do I get through this? How do I break through this block?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not always that helpful for me. It's like, it's a bit like the Wheel of Fortune where it's like, that hasn't
Hit and
been
miss.
decided yet.
Well, I think, for me, most people want to know if they're going to meet someone, if they're going to get a new job, if they're going to, travel, if they're going to study. And when I do the cards or the astrology, I can say, yes, I see you traveling and I see you whatever it is, So it is, what I do is very predictive. Otherwise, I can't see people coming to me if I just telling them what's going on already.
Yeah.
Most people want to know the future in my case.
Oh, of course.
So
Yeah.
when I came across the idea that there's a such thing as a non-predictive reader, I thought that was I think I wrote it in the comments. A non-predictive reader is like a hairdresser that doesn't cut hair.
Yeah. Most readers who are not skilled enough to predict the future or answer yes or no questions look down on those who can. I'm not sure they look down on.
I don't know if they look down, but I think they do say that it's nonsense. I have, to my surprise, like I said, I've in the tarot group, tarot, I have seen people who state that tarot cannot tell the future. And I'm like, what are these people doing? You know,
Yeah,
because I just find that really bizarre that they would be so adamant that just because they can't read the future doesn't mean other people can't.
yeah.
And I think that's what Alona's saying about that.
I believe that the tarot cards are actually, a way of sort of improving your life.
Hmm.
I mean, for me, they have been.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to get a positive outcome at times. But when I do my readings for myself, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, you should never read for yourself," but that's how I've learned.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like self-taught in that way. But
It is harder to read for yourself though, because you can't be objective.
mm,
But it's. I mean, I don't say you shouldn't do it.
mm,
When I have a student, I often tell them not to read for themselves, at least for the first while, until they get used to the cards.
mm,
Because then what happens is they often then get just very confused, and they'll ask a question and then they'll ask it again, and then they'll shuffle and ask it again, and then they'll get totally confused. But I don't think it's a bad thing to read for yourself. But when you're a beginner, when people are beginners, they often just totally take themselves out because they
mm,
just get confused. I think tarot gets you to reflect.
mm.
Like if you do a reading and it's just negative cards or difficult cards, when I get that, I usually say, okay, this is not going to go forward, whatever this is, or I'm on the wrong track, or I might need to look at what I'm doing in the situation, if I'm being stubborn or if I'm being, whatever. So, sometimes I've had readings where it's like maybe it's a romantic question and it's not what I want to see,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and then but I'll be like, okay, this isn't going to be long lasting, or this isn't going to work out, whatever. So I think it's a bit disappointing when you get cards you don't really like,
Yeah,
but it is a learning lesson,
yeah. Well, I would often reshuffle until I got the answer that I was happy with.
Yeah,
But
a lot of people do that.
of course, I was in a toxic codependent relationship at the time.
Well, that's like a lot of people we see online. As you can see on our group, many people ask the same question over and over again, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
and then they'll ask about 10 times the same question, and then they'll get confused.
yeah.
Is being called a fortune teller a taboo issue for you? Some of the other people wrote this. So I wrote back and I said, a non-predictive reader. What's next? A non-hair cutting hairdresser. Right? That was me being a bit snarky. And then Alona wrote back and she said, yes, they use the cards as pseudo therapy sessions without a medical license. There are many like that in California.
Oh, right.
So there may be those more like those healer types. They cannot come up with a clear answer or see nuance to anything of substance. So she's really against non-predictive readers. Then she went on and said, many readers in your groups cannot predict. The more they write in their answers, the longer the paragraphs, the less they actually see as an answer. They just dump a bunch of book meanings because they cannot figure out anything involving an answer. Critical thinking skills are not there. I notice it over and over with certain readers in groups on Facebook who never see nuance but write books to every question. That is true. I find there are some people online that will write a whole essay, but they don't actually give an answer.
Yeah, I've seen that before too, and I found that personally a little bit annoying as well. But the thing is, everyone's got to start somewhere, and I did start with a book.
Mm-hmm.
I did start with a book,
Mm-hmm.
and that was 5 years ago now. So I started with a book, and I kept getting the page of wands,
Right.
and I was like, "Who is this page?" But then after a few years, I realised, that was actually me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're beginning your journey.
Yeah, that was actually me. I was an immature man. The nuance came over time, and sort of, you. I think over time, and the more that you keep doing it, you start to assign your own personal meanings. And
Yeah.
some people's personal meanings are better than others.
Yeah, when I first began tarot, I was always the knight of wands.
Okay.
And then as I got older, now I'm the king of wands.
Yes, that's happened to me
I've
as well.
evolved.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I was in my 20s, I was definitely the knight of wands.
Yeah.
I would always, it would, whenever I was asking, especially about love, it would always be the Nine of Wands coming up as me.
Yeah, well, my wife is always the Queen of Wands.
Ah, okay, right.
Yeah, so she's
business minded.
yeah, very reliably the Queen of Wands.
Yeah, yeah.
Every reading.
Yeah, I just want to finish this as well. So then someone else wrote, I think her name is La Cristazelli. She said, Ilona, you hit the nail on the head. Not having any real skill, they depend on their, what's that word? Loquacity, and spew out their own projections, speculations, and conjecture. It would be rather amusing if one had to listen to them.
Well, that's what I do. That's what this podcast is all about. You know, you're doing the divination, and I'm just adding a little bit of
Conjecture.
yeah. I'm putting the sauce on the salad, basically, like
the cherry on top.
yeah. But we could reverse it. I could read the cards, and you could do that.
Okay, we might do that one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how we go with that. Okay, so let's wrap this video up, and we'll do another one. So this is Paris de Bono of the Fortune Teller Shop, and this is Ivan the Great, Ivan the Marvelous,
Thank you.
Ivan the Magnificent.
The magnificent solar panel coming to you from Sydney, Australia.